with another edition of The Exchange today, Thursday, May 7th. It's supposed to be my graduation day, but now I'm recording a podcast with my co-host Blake Doyle instead. How are you today, Blake?
I'm great. Yeah, everything's good. We're excited about what's happening in the economy and couldn't be more pleased with some things that are happening around the globe.
Definitely. I noticed your shirt, some Elon Musk-esque to it, and he just had a kid. I don't know how to pronounce the name, but...
Well, I think that's a problem. So this says, if all else fails, read the instructions. It's what the image is on the launch pad or the landing pad for their Falcon rockets. Yes, Elon's had a difficult week. He's dropped the stock price of Tesla. He's very frustrated with social isolation and what he sees as fascism. And he's got a new baby, which nobody can pronounce the name. In fact, he can't even register the name.
Maybe down the road they'll figure something out. But I noticed, not that it was his Twitter, but he tweets some kind of questionable things sometimes. A lot of it's good, relevant information, but even, I think it was a news article on Bloomberg maybe, and it said, should the economy reopen? And he just replied saying, yes. That's it.
Yeah. Here's the guy. If you look at what's happened, I think GM reported their earnings yesterday and Ford maybe last week. Tesla's market capitalization is huge. It's got a very strong fan base, and it's positioned very well to recover. They've got a lot of cash, which is unique in their industry. I think he's frustrated that his operations and his production has been shut down by this virus. Fair enough. Maybe many people are. But he's made some statements such as he's going to sell all of his worldly possessions. So if you check Zillow, 2 of his homes, I think he's got about $36 million in homes listed on Zillow now. So he makes these statements, but he follows through. He's a very entertaining guy. I don't know if he's going to move to Mars or what his plans are, but I've got more confidence here on the ground in PEI maybe than Elon does. I think Mars would be a more difficult economy to get started than PEI's.
I agree. And I think it just, obviously he sold some stock too, so I think that might have scared people, but overall, they're obviously doing a lot better than other car retailers would be because they probably have a lot more in the funnel than just having all these 2020 models sitting on the lot and no one to go buy cars today.
And the 2020s are kind of on the horizon. I don't know what production is like, but I mean, they're coming fast and furious, and the lots are full of these vehicles that the dealerships aren't even open. So we talked about that a little bit this week in the Guardian article. But, Elon Musk, he did hit a milestone. I think, I forget his payout, it's about $1 billion for achieving targets that really seemed unfathomable a couple of years ago when he set these share options. So anyway, enough about Elon Musk. Let's talk about what's going on locally here.
Locally. So I think overall the confidence is kind of rising a bit in terms of we're a week, almost 6 days through the kind of first stage opening, and overall it's went pretty well. There's probably been a couple hiccups along whether it's not social distancing properly or whatever the case may be, or even some businesses not following full guidelines. But the government put out yesterday or the day before a COVID operational template. So it's not to say you have to post it, but have this template filled out to say if a health inspector, whoever comes, you can say, oh, this is what we're following. It's it's kind of an insurance thing, but the government realized, okay, if we don't have this, then people are going to be caught probably red-handed in certain situations. But overall, it's been a good week to kind of the test phase of opening the economy with things that can be distanced.
Yeah, I think for the most part, business has tried to adapt to this situation now with relaxation for certain sectors. But one thing that's interesting is despite some relaxation, there's still industries that are discomforted with initiating. That's people like hairdressers, for instance. There's different pockets that aren't as comfortable, and these are very close proximity sort of relationships. So you can understand why they would be sensitive. But the challenge to the economy is how do you encourage and induce people to get back into the market, restart? The premier had some comments maybe late last week about some negative inducements to re-enter the workforce. But this is a challenge that business has to respond to. And if the wage rate isn't adequate to incent people to rejoin, well, the premier's advocated for changing the mechanisms of support while off work. Maybe the other side of that is to increase the supports to get back to work. That could be a wage impact. So challenging times. Business has a lot of problems, but the input of rents, electricity, property taxes, these are all wages. These are all things that they have to combat, and makes restarting even more of a challenge.
There's definitely a lot of different theories or ideas to kind of reintroduce people to the workforce. And obviously wage is the greatest factor that people want to come back and work if they're getting paid more than what they make at home. But it's kind of hard to say what the government should do exactly. Obviously, we can't. They're doing jobs for youth or the Canada summer jobs, like 100% funding, but that's only for 8 weeks for more so students. But one thing that kind of has been experienced or experimented before in different jurisdictions is almost like it's called a worker benefit, but it's almost like a top up of wages. So let's say you make $14 an hour. If the government pays an extra $3 an hour, maybe that would be more incentivizing than paying them $2,000 a month to do not to do nothing, but there's no job. They're not there.
Mm.
They couldn't work, and now they're on CERB or whatever the program they're on. So I think that would be my opinion on what to look at if it's kind of like a top up for wages. Um, Overall, our PEI's not minimum wage, sorry, is higher than the rest of the jurisdiction, like in the Atlantic region per se, and it goes up April 1st. Or no, I guess it just went up April 1st to 12.85. But our average income, our average wages is still pretty low. It might even be the lowest in the country comparatively. So I think there's just we have to find a fine line to kind of maybe get people more motivated to work. And I know I'm not saying people aren't motivated, but if you can, it's true. If you can get more money staying at home, you're going to do that. You're going to pick that option 9 times out of 10.
The challenge is, yeah, if you do the top up that causes wage inflation, and then how do you reduce that later on, or does it just stay as an inflationary factor? We're probably going to go into a deflationary environment here for a little bit because interest rates, all costs, even energy costs are staying unnaturally low. One of the big concerns I have with the restart, and we do have to restart this, we've got to get back to business resumption, but there's a huge loss of tax revenue that provinces are missing out on by not operating in a functioning economy. So if you look at the provincial component of consumption tax, which would be HST, I think PEI just for retail sales alone, which we're in a period now, the summer tourism season, where the most benefit from that tax revenue is going to be experienced. That's but 7.9% of the total tax that the government takes in is from retail sales. New Brunswick have even greater retail sales. It's about 10% of their total revenue. So these are numbers from the Conference Board of Canada. But by not starting the economy, it's not just the people who aren't working or the businesses that have inventories they've got to move or food that might be spoiling. There's a bigger issue here, and it's one that the provincial governments have to address: the loss of tax revenue. So starting the economy, you see people, all states and provinces like Quebec, who've been really hit by this pandemic, are really incented to get the economy going, and there's big repercussions to not starting it. So anyway, I don't know, Sam, I'm feeling actually pretty optimistic that business can adapt to this. I think the business have to look at rehiring people. There's some incentives to do that. Even if people aren't 100% productive, having them engaged and, off their couch is a very important next step to recovery.
Yeah, and I think PEI's had humongous strides the past 5 years in terms of unemployment rates and just overall jobs in the economy and the workforce. So to see kind of all that deteriorate in over 6 weeks, from 5 years to 6 weeks, that's how fast. I guess it's a lesson on how fast things can go bad. But I think we'll be able to get it up eventually again. It's just going to take time because it took a lot of time to get to that point that we were that the really low and unemployment rates under 10% for close to 2 years. And just I think close to 80,000 jobs in our economy. Anyways, that's where we are looking up, and I think things are beginning to slowly, and businesses are beginning to slowly open, and businesses are beginning to go from the adaptation stage more to an implementation stage. So I think the last 6 weeks have been kind of planning, pivoting, how do we do this, and then now it's more okay. We've tested this, now it's fully implemented, and it's a good example of e-commerce sites or direct to your door delivery, etc. But it's definitely optimistic seeing the go from an adaptation, kind of like a scared time, to more of a, all right, well, we can't do anything about it, so we might as well keep pushing forward.
Yeah, it's going to be a really challenging environment for businesses. Anyway, we've got to do it. We've got to get open, and hopefully we're getting that leadership from government to provide the direction and the catalyst or the infusion to kind of support some kind of resumption, both maintaining some operational costs like payroll, and also looking forward. So we don't just have, as you mentioned, it's 5 years, and then we've set back in 6 months, a 5-year sort of window. It's 5 years probably for recovery. So how do we get through the next 36 months? If a vaccine is really fast, maybe, some people are optimistic it's 18 months. I don't know. We'll see. I hope it is. But if it's not, even at the 18-month mark, once you get the community vaccinated again, how long does it take people to have confidence to kind of resume operations, to resume travel, to resume, commerce in a much broader scale? So I think it's not a short run problem for public entities to manage, and hopefully they've got people looking at these things. Do you have confidence that they do? I'm sure they've
I
got
do,
the
and
people.
I just again, people try to like we guess how long it's going to be till things are back on track or back to normal, whatever you want to call that. Um, but it's certainly more optimistic than I was maybe a month ago, and I'm not as much pulling my hair out working from home. But it's a lot better now than it was before. One question I had for you is because you're the professional in you're a little more experienced than I am. Is as the economy begins to open up and as business goes back to again what I say is a new normal, what areas of business do you think will emerge first, and like what areas do you think some people could maybe take advantage of to position themselves better to help people?
Yeah, well, I mean, the industries that probably will emerge quickly. I mean, restaurateurs have been trying to adapt to this in some way for a month or more. Um, Concern I have for them with social distancing, if you have to take a third or a half of the seats away from an operation just for social distancing, that's a third to a half of the revenue. So there's no way they can scale back up to where they'd expect to be, at least for this season. I think that's the same with a lot of industries, even retail. You can't, there'll be limitations on how you move within a retail environment. If it's clothing, you can't try it on. That will be a challenge for some folks. But we talked this week a little bit about in the Guardian supporting local businesses and make sure that even if inventory is a problem or timeliness of delivery, we have to support local. Make sure we maintain those relationships. As far as functions, I think that are going to resume. I mean, people, the web development companies are probably staying fairly busy right now. They should be. And I think they're going to get busy as people try to adapt to this online presence just to combat what's coming at us from outsider borders. I think HR, and that's something that we do internally with, both Confederation, senior strategic searches, but also island recruiting. And we're seeing a bit of an uptick. In fact, I think the opening of the economy has seen a little bit of a change in our volume, even the last week or so. And I think that's going to continue to progress. So, getting the right people, having inducements, making sure that you understand what the wage and competitive benefits need to be to get back into business. These are all things that businesses have to wrestle with. The sooner they address those, the sooner they can hire the right people to resume business and hopefully return the people they had on their bench back in February, March.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly like from my perspective, I never really knew what might be more important, but it's certainly your people are your most important person or most important part of a business. So if you need new people or you need to retrain the ones that have been out of the workforce for a bit, HR is definitely that would be my opinion on what's kind of the best positioned to help keep businesses alive and prospering as we enter a new stage.
Yeah, and even in some cases encourage them or induce them to return because there is some people are concerned about the health impact. So how do you ensure that your employees are confident and healthy and secure and willing to resume business operations? So these are all things that on top of a whole lot of challenges business has right now, this is another one. How do you bring people back, your key staff, so you don't have to retrain people? And how do you give them confidence that their environment is secure? They're not putting themselves at risk. So we've been very fortunate, and our borders have remained secure. Um, that probably won't remain the case. I think we can control it as best we can
Hmm.
until we have some sort of better testing. We're always going to be a little bit suspect to travelers coming in and out. So I don't know. I like you, Sam. I think I'm a lot more optimistic this week than I was last week. Business is opening up. Government's providing some direction. And business now is going to take the leadership role once they've been given the opportunity to take the throttle off and push forward. They just need a little bit of continued support. I think hopefully, government and the public are both patient with business over the next little while.
Back to your comment about retail stores not being able to try on clothes. I only wear extra small t-shirts, so I'll be fine
Uh,
for I don't have to try on
yeah,
anything, just extra
y-
small
you
and tight.
you're lucky because my wife keeps changing the buttons on my pants every night. I think when I'm asleep. So maybe I need elastic
Weird how
waistband or
that works.
something.
Once rugby season gets going, you might be able to shed a few, don't worry.
Yeah, you know what? The chief public health officer didn't specifically mention rugby. We've got soccer and football, and anyway, maybe that'll be on one of the next phases. So we're hoping we
Maybe.
can get back and get rid of these elastic waistband pants.
One comment I wanted to mention was new polling numbers came out for the federal government last week or late last week, I guess, early this week. And it kind of proved the theory that crisis creates opportunity because Justin Trudeau could win a massive majority if there's an election held tomorrow. You might not like that or agree with it, but he's polling around 45% nationally, like the Liberal Party is. And I think that's a swing of close to 11 points over the past, let's say, 3 months. And there hasn't been one provincially yet for Dennis King and the Tory government, but when that does happen, you're bound to see an increase in numbers.
Yeah, I think you've talked and done some research on this, Sam. I agree. And for a lot of reasons. I mean, I think the governments have done a good job communicating to Canadians and to Islanders. They're omnipresent. I mean, multiple times a day, not by accident. They're on the airwaves, communicating to Islanders in this case. And any kind of opposing views have really been silenced. And it's pretty hard to oppose statements in this kind of environment, even if the House resits, which I guess probably will on the 22nd of May somehow. I don't think it's going to be a very raucous session. I think they're going to pass a couple of quick little housekeeping bills and then shut her back down. But you can't really oppose government, and that makes it difficult to knock the polling numbers down. So I think you'll see the same thing here. I think this sort of stable, calming voice of provincial government will resonate, and you'll see that in the numbers here.
And I think a big part of the numbers going up to is like finding things that resonate with voters or constituents. In money in your pocket resonates with anybody. So if you're getting the idea of it being free money is not true, but for not some of the people that aren't maybe politically astute or maybe financially inclined, they see it as free money, so that resonates with them and saying they might have been trashing Trudeau a couple months ago, but now that they're getting a $2,000 check or their health, something's covered, they're I don't know, they're able to work from home. That resonates with them because they're seeing the money in their own pocket versus having to apply go through a rigorous thing to submit your receipts and get it back kind of thing. So it's viewed as free money to some. It's not, obviously, but the idea of money in pocket resonates with people. And I'm sure if you got a little bit of some free change in your pocket, you'd be happy too.
Sure. And I wonder if people make the distinction between, is this check coming from the federal government or the provincial government, and what voice most resonates with Islanders. There's the means of communication has changed quite a bit. So are they getting messaging from physical print, from television, from social? Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they feel the benefit is resonating and how that translates into the polls. You know, the other thing, we're in two minority governments, and coming out of this, to your point of a crisis creating an opportunity, you know, what's the right time to trigger an election? And will we have one this fall potentially at one level or the other? You know, in both cases, the opposition parties are in some disarray. I mean, locally, the Greens, the opposition is not. The Liberals, you know, they
No
don't have
leader, yeah.
a leader. Same federally, they're going through the process. So, yeah, it'd be very interesting to see, you know, how governing parties react to this opportunity or this environment. Things can only deteriorate in the coming years
Yeah,
as
exactly. I
bills
think
come to it.
the federal government is too early. Not that they wouldn't do it, but I think they'll wait until the Tory picks a leader because then they can start bashing he or she, which is just a given. But since it's only been 7-8 months since the last federal election, I don't think that 8 months window is a little. And they want to raise money also, but through these polling numbers being so high, they're able to raise money a lot easier. And provincially, I think Dennis King and the Tories, when they came in as a minority, they're thinking, oh, well, we can't really do anything. But essentially, they have been operating as a majority because the Greens and the Liberals don't have the money for an election, number one. And then through this, number two, they're able to boost their numbers. So why would the Greens or Liberals want an election, even if they were ready, because they know they're not going to win?
Mm.
And I'm not saying they're going to pick up more seats or lose any seats, the Tories, but just to be able to win another election, whether it's minority or not, it's a positive thing, and it'll resonate with especially their party base.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's strategists on all sides of this, I don't octagon, kind of making decisions on how to play forward. So anything we need to look forward to in the coming week? I mean, our businesses, golf courses opened last weekend. This will be the first full week of operations. Anything you're looking at upcoming?
A golf course that I play at a lot, Clyde River, opens on Friday, so I might be able to pop up in the afternoon for something if there's any tee times left. But I think we'll see. Really, the only thing is fishing and golf. Not the only thing, but the next 2 weeks is fishing and golfing and lawn mowing services and different stuff like that, landscaping, I guess, for your personal or your residential houses. The next step is May 22nd. It's gonna be, in my opinion, kind of a shit show. Sorry to pardon my French, but because everyone needs their haircut, so it's just gonna be like Ray's Place doesn't take appointments, for example, and I've gone there many times before, but how obviously they want to do it as best as they can, but I'm not sure how it's going to work because there's hundreds of men and women for that matter that are like, I need my hair cut, dyed, whatever. So I don't think it's going to be as easily as a transition as we hope. Obviously, they want it to be, and we can plan for it as much as we can. But I just think it's gonna be wild.
Well,
That's
yeah,
just my take. But
there's a lot of pent up interest, but will these companies even fully operate? I mean, will all of the hairstylists, hairdressers, barbers want to be working? And I hope they do. I hope there's precautions that make everybody safe, and at least give the sense that there's some security. But yeah, we need to get these really important parts of the economy back going.
I agree, and like I want my hair cut more than anything. But I'm gonna wait until the first couple days are over to see. Okay, what's it look like? Is there people complaining, or is there pictures of them being lined up at the door? Whatever the case may be. But
Well,
it's that's just my
you're,
opinion on the second phase.
I think your man bun is coming in pretty nicely there. So
I'm shaving this stupid beard sometime this week. It's driving me nuts.
uh,
But no, and not just hairdressers. Like that's one integral part of the May 22nd open. But there's going to be other openings, and then for third phase, we'll see more things like campgrounds, or I don't know, maybe get like restaurant. Whenever restaurants do open, I'm sure May 22nd they'll slowly be able to open back up. But you won't see like the nightlife of some places. I don't know, like even how are you supposed to go see a movie in this condition? Because like how are they can't just open a movie theater because you're right beside someone you might not know. It's hard to say what it'll look like, and we've never been through this before, so we're not going to know until May 23rd what it looks like, because that'll be a full day after it opens up, and then same as with June 12th, the third phase, whatever that begins to look like. And I'm sure they're beginning to shape that now, but it's trial and error as we move forward.
it'll be a great case study for somebody to look back on. In fact, we may just get through the COVID-19 in time for COVID-23. This is probably maybe a bit of a new normal. I think one of the things that business has to do, aside from kind of some HR planning, is just general strategy. So, just knowing that you can open the doors doesn't mean you just turn the switch. You need to have a lot of planning. You need to understand, what are your capital requirements? What if your business doesn't come back as quickly as you need it to? You need to have as much investment in, operations and inventory and personnel as you did back in February. So I think there's a lot of planning that hopefully people are looking at, and phasing in operations in a very measured way. Because if they don't, it could be a short sort of experience. And we need people to be sustainable and organized and restart and grow as the economy sort of adjusts to this. So I think strategic planning and forecasting is going to be really important. And maybe that's something else business will ask government to aid them with.
Yeah, exactly. And the implementation of that, like the mom and pop shops, the small businesses, they like the idea of a strategy can be as simple as having a proper rule sheet for when you do open, or something like that, or having a COVID plan that says, here's what we're doing every day or every hour of our business to make sure everything's safe as possible. It's as simple as that. Or whether you want to offer something on your Facebook page, or I don't know, your website, just little things that kind of make it a little easier to maneuver through this. But yeah, definitely strategy is the important part. And I think strategy might be an overused word, but it's because it's literally the foreshadow of your entire business. If you don't have some sort of strategy in place, it's just hard to kind of stick to something and stay focused.
And then once you have this strategy, refer to it. And as Elon Musk would say, if all else fails, read the instructions.
Just read the instructions. There's no instructions to this. That's for sure. This whole COVID pandemic. A year ago this week, actually, I would have been cleaning out my desk in the Premier's office, and although they're doing a great job, the current provincial government and the federal government for that matter, I wouldn't trade seats for them today, because just the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, always worrying about what's the next announcement, what's this, what's that. Yeah, I certainly wouldn't trade seats with them.
No, I'm sure none of these guys and girls, put their name forward to deal with this situation. You normally can't keep people happy. I'm sure there's lots of stress and struggles and complaints. So probably don't get much thanks, and I'm not necessarily one to give much thanks or so much gratitude. But I think in general that they've navigated this as best you could expect them to, and I don't think there's much they could have done differently. They've responded quickly. I think they've addressed policies that maybe weren't correct and amended them, and they're going to constantly do that. In fact, I would caution they're going to be doing this for a very long period of time, and many, many quarters, I think, before business find their footing. They're not just looking locally, and that's an important component, but we connect to a global economy, and that's, I don't know. I think there's some lingering challenges that'll have to be accommodated for some time.
Yeah, and we won't see the implications of all this for like the next 6 months to a year, just because they're all in progress now, and we won't see the actual benefit of it, or whether it's a negative, the negatives of it. But where they're doing, the government and even the small business community are doing the best they can, and we'll keep progressing, and things will slowly get better. There's the important thing is to be patient and not rush it, because there's no sense rushing it and then it all blowing up in your face. That's the same as anything in life, not just COVID-19.
Just get to it. Get back to business. Start with a
Exactly.
strategy and ease into it.
Start small and ease in. Exactly. Well, that's probably a good place to end for today. We don't want to bore people's airwaves any much longer, but I think we discussed some important topics that I think will resonate with our listeners and beyond. Just because uh, just there's not always the step-by-step analysis of things. It's more so high-level government talk. So I think us doing this is important. Um, and just to kind of feel out ideas or opinions. You never know. Some people, the government have taken ideas from the exchange before and put them forward. So we'll see what happens after this.
Those are your words, not mine, but I couldn't agree more. I think, we've had some really interesting guests on. We've got some more lined up. If you're listening to this and you have something you'd like to share, let us know. If you know somebody that should be, sharing a perspective, let us know. We certainly welcome Islanders to come on and share their thoughts and perspectives and how they're adapting to this current situation. So lots of good voices yet to come, and we're always open to hear from more. So
Definitely. So this has
thanks,
been
Sam.
another edition of The Exchange presented by Confederation Group. We will sign off for another episode. And I'm joined with Blake Doyle as always. I'm Sam McPhail, and we will see you next time.